What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to the Climb the Pocket YouTube page. My name is Steve Catalano. You can find me on Twitter at Steve 2.0, and I'm with Ryan McGinley. As always, find him on Twitter at Bootleg Fantasy. Ryan, what's going on?
Well, Steve, I understand you are currently having your food poisoning game. I can't see you yet. I'll see you post-production, but apparently you're sweating bullets, and I appreciate you being the Chicago boy and fighting through whatever's in your system, even though you're in Florida now and it's like 110 probably down there. But we're talking tight ends today, so I'm excited to get into that. Tight ends, everyone pretty much has similar rankings. I feel like there's a top consensus, and then there's the guys after where it's seemingly a dart throw. So we'll get into those. And I mean, I hope you feel better because it's tough not having you at your A game, but I mean, it's still going to be pretty good for me.
Yeah, it's something for sure, but I'll be fine. Tight ends, like you mentioned, everyone's got similar rankings, but once you get past the top like 4 or 5, things start to change a little bit, and then I feel like tight ends are always fun because a lot of people put a late tight end game, and you kind of which one is going to be a top 5 tight end that you got the 14th off the board or something like that. So we'll talk about our top 12 tight ends and then go into some sleepers that each of us chose that you could probably get undrafted in most drafts or drafted, way in the last round, last pick if you wanted to. I don't know, but we'll go over those. Coming in at number 1 on our in our rankings is Travis Kelce. It's really no question here. I've seen people take George Kittle number 1 overall in drafts as a tight end. For me, it's with Kelce. His last 2 seasons with Mahomes, and even going back to Alex Smith, have just been stellar. He's averaged 100 receptions with Mahomes. He's his favorite target on the team. He's steadily putting up over 1,200 yards. He's pretty much acting as a wide receiver on your team because you're going to get him in the second round. He's probably going to be like your wide receiver 1, assuming you went running back in the first round, and then you go with Travis Kelce maybe in the later half of the second round. And I don't find myself doing that a lot, but if for whatever reason he slipped to the third round, I'd jump all over Kelce. I am kind of the guy that likes to wait on tight ends, but if you take Travis Kelce at the right pick, I definitely would not shun you for it. I mean, I'm guessing you're a big fan of Travis Kelce too.
I mean, I love Travis Kelce, but I mean, he's my number 1 as well. He had 30% of the red zone targets, but I've made it a point to get our number 2 guy, Steve. I've made a point in my last 3 years to get George Kittle. He's my personal favorite tight end. I don't think he's got the same volume that Kelce gets. I think Kelce gets peppered more. That's how the offense is. Yeah. But George Kittle had the highest target rate among tight ends last year. That's not going away. They lost Emmanuel Sanders. They've got Debo. They've got Dante Pettis. And they're a run-first team in San Fran. So, that's telling me he's going to be on the field more often than not, even if he wasn't a great pass-catching back or a pass-catching tight end. George Kittle is on the field at all times for that team. We saw him pretty much tear his knee open, and he still played the entire game. I forget what week that was last year. But he's a beast. George Kittle's my personal favorite tight end. He's going to be tight end 2, possibly 1, depending on where him and Kelce fall. So The top 2 guys are pretty much written in stone this year, I feel like. I mean, there's arguments for the next 2 in the top 2, but I don't think the arguments are very loud.
No, George Kittle's an elite pass blocker, and he just is going to be always on the field. And I like him and Kelce both. I love that they're the leading target on their team. Kittle's going to be on the field all the time, and if you look at the receivers around there, they're more like utility guys. They want to run the ball first, and then in Kansas City, Tyreek Hill's more of a, take the top off the defense kind of guy. He could definitely do a lot, and they use him a lot, but he's never going to be a high target guy or a high reception guy. That's going to be Travis Kelce. So Travis Kelce and George Kittle are very similar players. If you swapped them in their offenses, they'd probably have very similar roles, and vice versa. These 2 are no question the top 2. And going on to number 3, we have Mark Andrews of the Baltimore Ravens. Kind of had a breakout season last year. He was a sleeper for a lot of people, and we talked about it earlier before we started going over the rankings that I'm kind of the guy that wants to, try to find a Mark Andrews who can be a top 5 tight end, and I paid nothing for him. So every year there's going to be those sort of tight ends who get a lot of buzz. Last year they were Mark Andrews and Darren Waller, and they both produced very well. Mark Andrews definitely very well. When it comes to Mark Andrews, though, so he's my number 3 tight end, just strictly the fact that he's Lamar's favorite target. We didn't get to see a lot of Marquise Brown last year. I think Marquise Brown might overtake that role this year, possibly. I like him a lot. But Mark Andrews was up there last year. But he actually only played on 44% of the team's snaps, which is like a pretty alarming number. He's not a George Kittle or a Travis Kelce at all when it comes to snap percentage. So when he's on the field, he's making his hay when he's on the field. And he's very athletic and he's really fun to watch. And you're like, why isn't he on the field more? And maybe that's just a part of their offense. Maybe he doesn't work so well in their running sets. But I don't know. Do you have anything to add? You think?
They lost. Hayden Hurst is gone.
I do like that.
Yeah, he was the highest target distance among tight ends, which to me was shocking to read because it didn't feel like the Ravens took that many deep shots. They just methodically ruined teams. But Mark Andrews was the highest in target distance among tight ends last year. He was 3rd in contested catch, too. So that tells me he's getting down the field and he's making plays. And I love that about Mark Andrews. He should see 70% of the snaps this year. I don't see how they can't get him on the field, especially since it's another run-heavy team. Similar to the 49ers, where they're going to run the ball, and, you're going to have bigger sets in there. So Mark Andrews should be on the field pretty much all the time. He had 10 touchdowns last year. Is that tough to replicate? Yes, but also, who knows? With that offense, they score a ton. So, he could see 10 touchdowns again. So,
I personally just don't like where he goes in drafts. He's a lot of people take him in the 3rd round or something, and I don't see it. When you're only playing 44% of the team snaps last year, and the touchdowns were there, but obviously he was just very efficient when he was on the field. He got the work done, going over 850 yards. The 10 or 11 touchdowns, and on 44% of the team snaps. So he was very efficient. So, to take that in the 3rd round, he's not the same vibe as Travis Kelce and George Kittle. I'm probably going to wait towards those 7th, 8th round tight ends, Jared Cook or Tyler Higbee or something like that. So we'll go ahead and move on to Zach Ertz. Spoiler. I'm just mentioning tight ends. Like you mentioned, they're all the same. Where do you have them? Exactly. So Zach Ertz for the Philadelphia Eagles comes in at number 4. We're pretty much going head for head with the ECR and the consensus rankings with this too. Zach Ertz is Wentz's favorite target. He has been for years, and when Wentz is healthy, they are a dynamic duo. I love watching them, and a lot of people will say Dallas Goedert, he's there, he's going to take over. They just run the 2 tight end set, and it works for them. I think Dallas Goedert has standalone value himself. I think he could possibly be a sleeper tight end to be 100%. A top 10 guy. Out of nowhere, they could have 2 top 10 tight ends. That's just the kind of offense they like to run. So, but when it comes to Zach Ertz, I feel like last year he was kind of in spurts. But that kind of goes with Carson Wentz and whatnot, also in spurts. He's another one though. He's probably going to go similar off the board. Mark Andrews, maybe 6 more picks after him.
Unfortunately for Ertz, he still gets weighed like the guy who broke the receptions in a season record. He's not going to see that volume again. The Eagles brought in a lot of pass catchers. I still think he's the 4th best tight end in the league. But it's not going to be the 12 targets a game that you saw in 2017. He's not going to have that volume, especially with Dallas Goedert. That being said, the guys the Eagles brought in and the guys that the Eagles are going to rely on catching passes, small guys. They're not big guys. So he's going to have to make his hay in the red zone, and he really has with Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz is one of the most efficient guys in the red zone. So if Wentz can find his boy in the back of the end zone 10 times, 8 to 10 times, he's firmly a number 4 tight end. So I'm completely cool with having Ertz there, especially because it seems like he's got less questions about him than the guys that come after him. So I'd
love to see his ADP slip a little bit. I'd love to get him at a value. Some people he's not a sexy name. He's not getting a lot of hype Zach Ertz. I feel like his time is come and gone, but it really hasn't. That's what a lot of people probably feel. It's come and gone.
Exactly.
But he's still there. I would love if he could drop just another round or so, and I'd probably snag him up. Go number 5. So the first 4 tight ends, we were pretty much spot on with our rankings, and now we kind of start to differ. Darren Waller's both number 6 for us, but he comes at number 5 because we have some differences at 5 and 6 for us, or 5 and 7. Darren Waller last year, like I said, was a sleeper. You got him pretty much the last round pick probably. There was a lot of hype with Hard Knocks and whatnot with Darren Waller, and he definitely showed out. He received, I'm pretty sure it was 30% of Derek Carr's passing yards went to Darren Waller.
Yeah.
And he had a 22% target share. So he was the guy on that team. When you think about it, Tyrell Williams was hurt all year. He kind of came out the gates pretty hot, but then he was gone. And they didn't really have anyone else to throw to, and Darren Waller was the guy. He had over 1,100 yards. The thing was, he only had 3 touchdowns. So give that guy 3 or 4 more touchdowns, and we're talking. He's probably ranked up. He would probably be ranked higher, but we saw that Oakland took multiple offensive weapons in the draft. So I think a lot of people don't know exactly what to do with Darren Waller. For me, I am kind of uncomfortable taking him at the spot where he's getting drafted.
Sure.
A little earlier in drafts, probably round 5. And I probably wouldn't do it just because I don't know exactly what's going to happen to the offense. I think they definitely want to keep featuring him as a main target, but why draft all those skill players and whatnot? And I don't know if you'd be able to keep the same target share.
Yeah, I mean, he's in the same boat that Zach Ertz was in, where Ertz had all those targets, he had all the fantasy points, and then they bring in some guys, and you wonder how many targets he's going to get. It's still up in the air if Henry Ruggs got hurt. I don't know if you saw that, where he might have gotten hurt helping a friend move.
I did not see that.
Yeah, apparently he got impaled helping his friend move.
Impaled?
He got impaled in his thigh, allegedly, according to Twitter. But I'm sure Henry Ruggs is fine. I don't think that Darren Waller will see the amount of volume he saw last year. I mean, his touchdowns should 100% go up. I mean, he's the biggest body on that team.
Yeah.
Josh Jacobs looked great last year, so I feel like they will want to feature him more. So maybe there's more heavy sets, and Darren Waller gets some nice bootlegs that are thrown out to him. It's a great plug. But I expect Waller to be the guy where you're at your fantasy draft, and there's somebody in the league that says, "Ooh, I need a tight end," and Darren Waller's the best one available. I guess I'll take him. That's where I put Darren Waller. It's the 6th round. I've got 2 running backs and 3 wide receivers. I guess I'll take a tight end. He's the consummate guy for that. So I like Waller. I don't love Waller, mostly because I don't love Derek Carr. So
we know you
Waller
hate Derek Carr.
I hate
90 catches last year though. So I feel like that might be hard to repeat with the weapons that they added. For sure. I could see him maybe more on 75 or so. Mm-hmm. That sounds a little more comfortable, but definitely more in the touchdown department, more than 3. And that's fine if he loses a couple catches and some yards. If you put some touchdowns on there, he'll be similar value. He'll still be a great tight end in fantasy, which is why he's our number 5. Going on to number 6, we have Evan Engram for the Giants. Evan Engram is my number 5 tight end. He's your number 7. So we're a little different there. One obviously big concern for him is his health status year in and year out. He's only averaged 11 games per season since he came into the league. He had that really good rookie season where he kind of showed out that he kind of could be like a Travis Kelce-esque player when he's on the field. Obviously, he's super talented and kind of a freak. And he's definitely can put up those big games where he goes over 100 yards and a touchdown fairly easily. But there are a lot of weapons in New York. They have Sterling Shepard, they have Golden Tate, they have Saquon Barkley, 100%. Darius Slayton's coming on the scene. A lot of guys to feed the ball to. So it's not like a Travis Kelce situation where he's going to be the top target. And then you have a couple of receivers who are favorite targets. Yeah,
I like Ingram's talent. He's like the consummate pass catching tight end. He's not really a blocker. He's not very durable. Unfortunately his situation is similar to Jordan Reed's, where I feel like they would be a top 5 tight end if they were always on the field. But
Jordan Reed,
dude, I wish Jordan Reed stayed healthy. He was so good. And that's how I feel about Evan Engram. Evan Engram, when he has the ball in space, he's maybe one of the faster tight ends in the league. He's great. I love his ability to just play football, but he's not available for 6 weeks a year, and that's killer, especially when you take him as a pretty premium tight end. So
Yeah.
there's going to be a lot of passing in New York, because they're going to be down a couple games. There's going to be a lot of offense in the NFC East, so they're going to have to keep up with other teams. So I like him if he plays. The thing is, I don't want to draft him and then miss him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you don't want to spend an early pick on a tight end, and he's like one of those guys that's risky, and he might not stay healthy. Like everyone else on the board up here, I guess Mark Andrews had some injury concerns last year, but everyone else stayed healthy pretty much the whole year, and you're not really concerned. Evan Ingram's like where it first starts, and you're like, okay, I don't know if that guy could stay healthy.
For sure.
Moving on to another guy who's had trouble staying healthy is Hunter Henry for the Los Angeles Chargers. Phillip Rivers is gone. So he's number 9 on my board. You have him at number 5. So we're pretty different here. And I guess the biggest thing for me is that Phillip Rivers is gone. And like honestly, Hunter Henry has never really been like super stellar. I feel like the reason he gets a lot of hype is because like Phillip Rivers has always loved, Antonio Gates. They've always had that connection. And then Hunter Henry comes into town and people automatically kind of associate him with Antonio Gates. Like he's going to replace him and he's going to be great. Obviously, Hunter Henry is a great football player. When we see him on the field, he's fantastic. I don't think he got used as much as he should have. But obviously the injuries kind of play into that.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
I'm just a little lower on him because Phillip Rivers is gone. He's always targeted the tight ends. And, the quarterback situation, we don't know. I mean, I guess maybe he's a safety blanket for whatever quarterback is going to be starting, but
yeah, I mean that's my thought with it. Especially if it's Herbert. If it's Herbert, he's going to have 2 guys. I guess he'll have 3 guys that he'll feel comfortable with, and I really do like Hunter Henry's talent. I mean, I'm going to sound a bit ridiculous after bashing Evan Engram a little bit for his injury history, and then we got Hunter Henry, who's got the same, if not worse, but not like soft tissue stuff. Like Hunter Henry's had some knee issues and stuff like that. So like I feel like that was kind of fluky for Henry, where I feel like Engram is soft tissue injuries a lot. So with Henry, I think that there'll be a conservative offense next year. In Los Angeles, wherever they're playing these days. I think their offense is not going to be risky. It's not going to be explosive. It's not going to be, we're going to have Phillip Rivers throw the ball 40 times. He throws 3 picks. He throws 400 yards, and we win by 3. Like, it's not going to happen like that anymore. They're going to be conservative offense, and it's going to be a lot of stuff in the middle of the field. They'll have Keenan Allen in the slot. They'll have Hunter Henry work in the middle. Yeah. So if he sees 6, 7, 8 targets a game, finishes 5 for 50 and a touchdown out of my tight end,
no, that's
perfect.
Great. Yeah.
I love it. You know what I mean? So, like, He feels safer to me than some of the guys after this.
He feels safe, but I guess for you to have him at 5 is, I feel like I'd rather have even Waller with the additions on the team. Or
listen, Tyrod Taylor's already better than Derek Carr this year.
All right.
And so is Herbert. So
let's move on. Number 8, a guy that's receiving a lot of hype this year is Tyler Higbee.
Yep.
And that's strictly off of his last 5 games last year where he had averaged over 100 yards a game. He was averaging over 11 targets. He had one game where he had 14 targets and 12 catches. I mean, out of nowhere, because in the first 9 games he had 212 yards and was only averaging 3.5 targets a game. And it just made no sense. Like, once they went through their bye week and then he has one game and then the final 5 games then just completely changed role in the offense. And we start seeing this guy like featured, as a featured pass catcher on the offense, and he looks really good. And you're like, whoa, where has this been? Like, why hasn't this guy got the ball more? Like, a lot of people were probably higher on like Gerald Everett. They've always had those 2 tight ends out there, and were higher on Gerald Everett. And
100%.
Then we see Tyler Higbee. Every time he's getting the ball, I mean, he kind of looked like a Mark Andrews, like a George Kittle out there. Like, really fun to watch. So, are you going to buy into the hype that the last 5 games were like what he's going to be this year? Because that's kind of where he's being drafted. Honestly, if you're drafting Tyler Higbee as the 8th tight end and you think he's going to do what he did in the last 5 games last year, he should really be drafted higher, because his 16-game pace at that is like 1,500 yards.
No, it was ridiculous. I mean, I think by the end of the fantasy offseason, where like final rankings are out, he's going to work his way up until 5 or 6. You know what I mean? Like, the more I look at him on tape and like the more I watch how explosive he looks as a tight end, which looks strange to me.
Yeah.
I want to move him above Ingram. I want to move him above Waller. He might move above Hunter Henry. I don't know. The hype
Yeah.
train may never end, Steve. He might be tight end one by the time
I've
my
been
final
snagging
rankings
him a
out.
lot when I do mock drafts and stuff. I just do it. Like I'm like, oh,
Yeah, yeah,
I have all these skill players already. Let me get a tight end. And
yeah,
Tyler Higbee's there, and I'm like, don't even think about it. I'm just like, I want him on my team. Like I don't want to miss
yeah.
out on what happened at the end of the season last
Exactly.
year.
And like he was 20. He had I think he was tight end two with 28% of red zone targets.
Yeah.
So not only did he make plays in the open field, they were also looking for him in the red zone. So yeah, I feel like we might have, ranked him a little low. Maybe somebody in my league is listening to this, and maybe, don't draft him because he looks great. He looks like a great value
Yeah.
in leagues that aren't crazy like most leagues we're already in. He's going to go around tight end 8, but if you want to take him above Ingram, Waller, Henry, you can take him above Zach Ertz. I don't care. Like I think he has the most upside. Like all these other guys, we kind of know what's there. Like
Yeah.
he might be the guy that pops into the top 3, 4 this year.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. Coming in at number 9 is Austin Hooper for the Cleveland Browns. He's a guy I'm not really high on. He is my number 10, but comes in at number 9 consensus. You have him at number 9. Last year, he was on a pretty incredible pace before he got injured. He was almost on pace for 1,000 yards, over 120 targets, and like
Right.
90 receptions. It would have been pretty like an outlier season for
Yeah.
him. Austin Hooper's always been kind of a guy that you could probably guarantee that he's going to get you like 500 receiving yards and maybe like 4 or 5 touchdowns. Like just a solid fantasy tight end, probably like usually tight end 10, maybe 11.
Yeah.
And last year, his pace, like I said, was very good before he ended up getting injured. And then in free agency, he goes over to the Cleveland Browns. And it was, everyone knows from our past videos that I'm not big on the Browns and their offense. I'm not a Baker believer. And when you add in Austin Hooper, they already have Odell, Landry, they have Kareem Hunt, they have David Njoku still there. It doesn't really, I don't think there's a way that he's going to be able to be back on that pace that he was last year.
Yeah.
As far as that 16 game pace, I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's probably going to be where he was in the earlier parts of his career, just the first 3 or 4 seasons before last year. Everything prior to 2019 is probably what the kind of player he's going to be in Cleveland.
Yeah, I think he's going to benefit a lot from the Baker rebuild, where Baker for the first couple weeks is going to be, he's going to try to be methodical. He's going to try to be consistent, accurate. I think he sees a lot of value in the first couple weeks. My thing is, I don't know if that is how the entire year will be. I don't know if Baker stays in that kind of mode. So I don't know. He's a tough read because he feels like a safe tight end. Like if you're the last person who needs a tight end, like Hooper's fine. Like he could show up and be the guy he was last year. I don't think so. He's always been weird where he'll have like 2 catches for 25 yards and then he'll have like a 4 for like 170 game, and you're like, that makes no sense to me, Austin. Like you need to relax a little bit. So like I like Hooper. I don't love Hooper. Like I want to get somebody in the top 8 essentially. So
yeah, all the names above that I'm cool with. Hooper, I don't see myself drafting him. I'll probably take him in like some best balls or something like that randomly, but just to get a share. But I don't see him in a lot of my season long leagues on my team. Moving on to number 10, your boy Rob Gronkowski for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Back with Tom down in Tampa. Takes the year off and he comes right back when Tom changes team and says, "Hey, let's go live in Florida and play some football, man." And I couldn't be more excited to watch him. And that's my opinion on him. It's like I just want to watch Rob Gronkowski play football and be good. I don't know if he's going to be the same player he was in New England just because a year off and maybe he's back in the same shape. Who knows? But taking a year off and the new offense and whatnot, I think he's going to be better than people are giving him credit for.
Yeah,
number
100%.
10. He's number 10. He's your number 10. He's my number 11. I actually wouldn't be surprised if he ended up at like number 6. And
100%.
If we see the rapport like that we know they have and it's flowing, oh man, whoever got Gronk's going to love it.
Just a couple boys having a little catch in the backyard is what I'm expecting out of Tommy, and I mean it all comes down to Brady. I think Gronk will be adequate enough. He's put 30 pounds back on. He's fully healthy. He's happy to play. But, like, he was kind of suspect at the end of his Patriots career. He's kind of banged up. And I love Gronk, right? And there will be games where Gronk catches 2 touchdowns and he's dancing in the end zone on a pirate ship. Like, it's going to be hilarious, right? But,
wait.
Having Gronk on your fantasy team, like, you're going to need another tight end. Like, the nostalgia is going to be hilarious, and, like, you have Gronk on your team. Like, most people,
it feels like a
Gronk
joke.
This year,
why does it feel like a joke?
It does feel like a joke. Like, if you take Gronk this year, it's probably because you never had the chance to take him when he was, like, elite. So you're like, yes, I finally have Gronk. And some people will reach on Gronk. That's a good point.
Yeah.
And I might be someone who reaches on Gronk if it's Gronk.
Everyone can picture someone in their league that's going to take Gronk. Everyone.
Yeah, 100%.
You're like, that guy is for sure taking Gronk.
Everyone has a Gronk guy, 100%.
If you could draft him in the first or second round, you can definitely take him in the 10th. Yeah. You can take him in the 10th.
The guys that are taking him in the first and second round in like 2011 will 100% be taking Gronk in round 7. And you're like, dude.
I think our ranking at number 10 is fair for him.
Yeah.
So we move on to number 11. Jared Cook, he's your 13th tight end. He's my 8, so he moves up into our top 12 because of my ranking. I just really like what I saw last year with him and Drew Brees. I feel like it kind of ramped up as the second half of the season went by, and he was a pretty big part of that offense. They still don't have a lot of weapons to catch the ball. They did bring in Emmanuel Sanders. I guess that's maybe why you could be a little lower on him than last year. Michael Thomas, Kamara, and that's pretty much it. And then they bring in Emmanuel Sanders. So I guess that takes away some targets from Cook. But I just like 100%. What I saw last year with Cook, and I'm always been a big fan of Cook. I really liked when he was on the Packers with Rodgers. But he's kind of been moved. He's moved around a lot in the NFL. He's been on a lot of different teams so far.
I
guess tell me why he's 13.
Good. Like he's fine. He seems old to me. He does seem old. He looked slow. Like, I know he caught touchdowns, and like they never made sense. Like, I swear I played against Jared Cook every single week last year.
Like multi-touchdown games, 2 weeks in a row.
I want to say he had a multi-touch. Maybe week 16, I played against him in the championship, I think.
Maybe.
And like maybe there's a little bit of overhanging anger at Jared Cook for that. Like, I don't know. They brought in another tight end. I forget. It was some young guy. Like, I don't know how long the Saints are holding up as a team, as a passing team. Like,
yeah,
like Taysom Hill might be their tight end next year. Like, I don't know.
They should. They might as well.
Dude, I don't know. Cook to me.
We're talking the 11th tight end, so there's not much to defend. You're like, I'll take him.
Like, he's fine. Like, if he's my second tight end, beautiful. Like, he might start over a couple guys I already have.
He's the guy I'd take if I was last to take a tight end.
100%.
Like one of those guys.
He's a touchdown dependent tight end because he's not a yards after catch guy. But he's gonna catch more touchdowns than you think he should. He's fine. Like, he's a touchdown guy.
Yeah, he's our number 11. Number 12, you're responsible for him sneaking the top 12. You have Noah Fant at number 11, and I have him down at 15. So I'm going to give this guy to you to talk about because I love Noah Fant. He's a great talent. But
no, dude, he is explosive as all get out. Like, Iowa tight ends immediately just rise up the board for me. You're lucky you didn't see Hawkinson on our top 12. I think he was like 15 for me.
Yeah.
So I love tight end you out there. Noah Fant might be. I don't think he's the most explosive one because I think that's still Kittle, but I think he's better than Hawkinson, and the ball carries out there in Denver. So I really like the idea that he gets a full off season with Drew Lock as his guy. They'll get on the same page. They did bring in Jerry Jeudy. They brought, Cortland Sutton's still there. Their offense is good, and I think he's going to be a benefactor of them having defenses have to actually watch their wide receivers since Emmanuel Sanders left. Like, it was Sutton and Deshaun Hamilton. I really like.
There were some flashes last year where he had some big games, and I think that could happen more. I do like the upside Noah Fant. I think he's one of those guys that we talk about where you could take him as the 15th tight end or the 13th or 14th, and he could finish as like a top 7 guy. Like, it could happen.
I think Fant is one of the high upside guys. I think if you get a consistency guy, like, and you can take Fant later, I
Yeah.
really like Fant. I think he's more of a tight end for now. Like, he's not like the big blocking tight end. Like, I mean, he's sufficient at it, but like, he's definitely a pass catching tight end. And he was the one that rose to the top in Denver. They've had 1,000 tight ends there, and he's the one who won. He beat out like Jake Butt and the boys. So like,
Oh,
I I like Noah Fant a lot this year. He's going to be my later round tight end if I choose that way. You know
one of
what I
my
mean?
favorite strategies is like draft a tight end. Like if I want Higbee, and then like 4 rounds later or 5, whatever, end of the draft, take Noah Fant, and then like if he ends up breaking out,
Boom.
like I choose whether I
Good.
keep Higbee or Fant, and I trade a tight end for a skill player. Like
100%.
wow, that's great. Trading a tight end, like you never want to trade for a tight end, but you want to trade a tight end. You want to have if you have multiple good
100%.
tight ends, that's one of the better cards to have in fantasy football. So there's our top 12 tight ends. We're going to go over a couple sleepers and not go too in depth, kind of just list them out. But for me, my 3 sleeper tight ends are, you mentioned earlier, TJ Hawkinson for the Lions, Chris Herndon with the Jets, and then Hayden Hurst, new on the Atlanta Falcons. I really like Hayden Hurst this year.
Yeah.
I think he's a guy that is similar to Darren
100%.
Waller and whatnot when you think of like draft last year, as far as like you're able to take him last round or whatever. Actually, I'm pretty sure his ADP is actually rising quite a bit lately. The hype train's rolling with
100%.
him. But we saw what Austin Hooper was able to do last year. Atlanta's a great passing offense, and I think Hayden Hurst hasn't shown what he can do best yet. Being stuck in Baltimore, where obviously the passing game is not prevalent to the run game. So now he's on a passing offense, and I'm really excited to watch him play. Who are your sleepers?
So I got your boy, Jay Sternberger out in Green Bay. He's got to beat Mercedes Lewis out, dude. Like, Mercedes Lewis is 45 years old.
The only bad thing was just we didn't see anything.
I know.
Last year,
I know.
Sucked.
Like, I tried to find anything. I think he had 60 offensive snaps last year, and like nothing. Like, just strictly blocking. I'm like, come on, Jace, get on the field. Like, he was a third round pick, something like that. So like, they invested some capital in the kid.
Yeah.
We need to see something.
Yeah.
I also have Jack Doyle. Love Jack Doyle.
Love Jack Doyle.
I've always loved the jack of all trades out there in Indianapolis. He's the only guy there now. They got Phillip Rivers. He's a safety guy for me. Like, if you get one of the guys, if you go Fant Doyle, just tweet at me, because like, I'll love that. Like, you just let me know
that actually be a solid combo.
That's what I mean. Like,
Jack Doyle with Phillip Rivers, love it.
Yeah, and then I got Irv Smith because Rudolph's getting old. The guys that they brought in to replace Stephon Diggs won't really be in a normal camp setting. So the offseason is going to be weird for them. Irv Smith was already there. I like that he will probably get peppered a little bit as a tight end because Jefferson won't have a full grasp of the playbook. They brought in Tajay Sharp. I like Irv Smith as their tight end 1B probably. I don't think Rudolph does a whole lot this year, so those are some deeper guys that I definitely am thinking about targeting.
Yeah, well, there you have it, our top 12 tight ends and each of our sleeper tight end picks. Go ahead, if you like the content today and all of our content we put out in the past, subscribe to the channel. We really appreciate the support. Drop a comment. We love to respond to all your comments below. We'll get to every single one of them. Like this video. Go over to our Twitter at Climb the Pocket. We're constantly putting polls. We got a good community over there that definitely likes to discuss fantasy football each and every day. Follow us on Twitter. Our handles are on the screen. And until next week, thanks for stopping by.